Well, guess who has to pay for illegal immigration in Canada? Taxpayers. Get ready, U.S. and Europe, because you're probably next.
Why are you pointing to me?
Watch this template.
Why are you pointing to me?
I'm pointing to all of you.
All of us.
Who speak English.
David, you're going to be paying for it. We're all going to be paying for it.
You don't have to necessarily speak English.
They're going to give me a discount because I think what's going to happen is they're going to say, hey, it's going to be 16%, but we'll drop it to 10 if you can house a few migrants. So I got a big house here and I'll just house a few.
You're going to be housing a few migrants. Okay.
Yeah.
The military-aged men migrants.
Well,
See
okay.
how that goes.
It doesn't have to just do with migrants, though. The state or the city of Toronto is admitting that they need to increase taxes on homeowners because of the increase in migrants and because of the pandemic. Because the city lost so much money during the pandemic that you need to pay for it. Now, think back during lockdowns. If you were someone who was like, oh, lockdowns, it's necessary. If you thought that that was okay, did you think about how much this would come on you and your finances? I bet you didn't.
No.
And we're going to show you exactly, the city wrote it out, how much lockdowns cost them and how much they want you to pay for it, as well as the influx of migrants. Those are the two main reasons the budget in Toronto is suffering, and they want to reach into taxpayers' pockets to pay for it. The new Liberal mayor in Toronto is saying that she's planning to raise taxes by 10.5% because of the budget crisis. This is the biggest increase ever. But they say that if they don't get more money from the federal government, they're going to raise it an increased 6%. So total 16.5% increase of property taxes so that Toronto can deal with its migrant crisis. Watch.
Toronto homeowners are bracing for a historic property tax hike. The 10-year average has been 2.6%. This year's increase will be in the double digits.
And we do have a financial mess, and it needs to be fixed, right? That's what we're doing.
Toronto homeowners are facing a proposed 9% property tax increase, plus a 1.5% city building fund levy, bringing the total to 10.5%, the highest ever hike since amalgamation more than 20 years ago.
It is significant. There is sticker shock to it.
And the city's budget chief warns that number could skyrocket to 16.5% if the federal government doesn't provide $250 million needed to support refugees currently in Toronto's shelter system.
Now, it is extra upsetting. I'm going to play you this clip, and I apologize, the audio is a bit tinny. When the Mayor Chow says she didn't create this financial mess, but it needs to be fixed. What is unsaid then is by you. Watch.
I did not create this financial mess, but it needs to be fixed.
Now, you have to think, if you voted for her, you voted for her to fix it. You didn't vote to pay for it yourself, right? That's what I would think. Here's Dr. Jay Goldberg from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation explaining exactly how much this will cost taxpayers.
For the average homeowner, that's a $750 property tax increase at a time when 400,000 Ontarians are working more than one job to make ends meet, and grocery bills will be up $700 this year for the average family. Toronto taxpayers cannot afford Chow's reckless tax hike. Toronto City Councillors must stand strong and reject Mayor Chow's property tax hike. Reach out to your local councillor and demand that they vote no on Chow's proposed budget.
Now, officials are warning that they have been warning the government for 2 years that an increase in immigration would increase costs to taxpayers, and the government has just not listened. They blatantly ignored these warnings. So who created this mess that taxpayers are in that now Mayor Chow says they have to fix? Well, if you look at the proposed budget, it's an admission that most of the deficit was created by the government because of pandemic lockdowns. So take a look at this graphic. What they're saying here is that everything you see that is increasing costs here that's in yellow is due to the pandemic. Now think about it. When you thought about lockdowns, were we told, oh, the government's going to pay you some money, right, to stay home. The government's going to handle, rental assistance or whatever it was at the time. We told you, I hate to say I told you so, but we told you that you would eventually pay for these things, right? Did we not say
yes,
this?
It would come back.
Did economists not say this?
And did it not show up here in terms of how much the national debt has accelerated?
Well, yes, this is the American national debt.
Right.
We're talking about Canada, but these are mirror image economies, right?
That's my point. Exactly. Yeah. So you, the taxpayer, are going to be, paying for this.
And also, by locking down all the companies that had to shut down, look at all the tax revenue and stuff that they lost that whole time.
Right. Well, take a look at this budget again. I mean, look at what it's saying here is that the dark blue is inflation. That's why costs are up. The light blue is just there's stymied growth. So they're not growing as much as they need to bring revenues in. But the yellow is the damage caused to by the pandemic, which maybe you voted for or maybe you didn't. Right. But that is it. An inordinate increase in the cost of living in your social contract with the government that economists were saying, you will pay for this. And people were saying, no, we won't. We just want our stimulus check. We're not worried about it. Well, you'll worry about it now. The budget also says that the increase in numbers of refugees expected in 2024 could increase the budget by 65%. Take a look at this. They are flat out saying that homeowners should be glad that they're not getting a 42% property tax increase, because that's what it would really cost to bring in all of these expected, 10,600 shelter beds that they're going to need this year, 4,800 beds expected to be used by refugees. Now, here is where they say that the federal government, if the federal government doesn't cough up more money for these refugees, then the city of Toronto will tax its residents by an increase of 6%. So they're already saying they want 10.5%. They're willing to add this 6% to that number. So it would be a 16.5% increase in property taxes for homeowners and business owners. So get ready.
Those of us that don't really understand property tax, is that property tax on the land that the house sits on, or does that include the house as well?
It's usually it's the city's assessed value of what that property would sell for. And usually they're kind of generous. They don't use the most current market rates. They use about an average.
Property with the house.
Yes.
Yeah, with the improvements on it.
It's like you could sell this house. Let's say you could sell the house for $400,000, then they're going to take 16% per year of that value.
Wow.
So you'll be paying it every year.
Yeah.
Now, and you saw in that piece that could add up to quite a bit of money. For the average homeowner, and business owners will also pay it. Now, the Toronto Star says that this budget was based on a survey that they have seen, and it indicates that taxpayers want it. They say about 30% of the people who took a survey for this budget wanted more funding for migrants and to defund the police. 30% is not a big number. And I am going to wager that the 30% who voted for this are not actually homeowners.
Oh, I bet they're renters in Toronto, and they're liberal renters in Toronto.
Yeah.
They probably went to the University of Toronto.
Okay.
They went on campus.
Tax the rich.
You're being more kind.
Tax the rich.
You're being more kind than my assessment. My guess is they were all in the Toronto budget office, and that's who they interviewed for this.
Right.
They're like, it's so cold outside. We don't want to leave the building. Can everyone come down to the conference room? We want to take a poll.
And even if they weren't homeowners, they were probably myopic enough to think that, yes, we should defund the police and give more money to migrants, but it shouldn't come out of my budget. It will, even if you're a renter, because do you think that your landlord who has this increased property tax bill is not going to then pass that increased cost to you for your rent? Well, think again. They absolutely will, and they definitely should. I would wager, that they wanted the city to funnel their money into migrants and less to the police, but not their money, but they will, because that's your contract, your social contract. If you voted this way in Toronto, I really would like to know your rationale. I'm so curious.
Yeah, defund the police.
And more money for migrants.
And more money for immigrants.
And I just wonder, I'd like to show you this. Do you care that according to Toronto police, crime is up by 21%? The city has grown by 13%. But the number of police officers has declined by 11%. Do you not believe it, or do you not care? I'm really curious if you voted this way, that this is what you want out of the budget. And to be clear, Mayor Chow's budget doesn't cut funding for police. It is a top line item. Take a look there. They still do intend to spend a lot on police, but also on migrants. So this is just a proposal. You can get involved if you want. Here's the schedule. You can call your representative if you are a Toronto resident. How much do you think the mayor is willing to hear and change? I don't know. She's not even a year into her first term. And again, you know, this cost will be passed on to everybody, even if you're not a renter, even if you're not a homeowner. You think that the businesses that are paying these increased costs will increase their cost of business to you, their cost of goods, their cost of services. This will overall increase costs in Toronto, which is already really expensive. And if you're not in Canada, but you live in another progressive run city, hold on to your butt, because this will come to you too. We showed you this video yesterday of immigrants being moved into a high school because their shelter was in danger of collapsing. High school students in Brooklyn were forced into virtual learning because the migrants had nowhere to go. And so they got booted from their shelter, and the students got booted from their school. Watch this again.
How do you feel? How do you feel? Makes you feel good? I hope it makes you feel really good. How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? Do you feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you'll sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
Because I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Taking over my kid's school.
All right. So progressives like AOC say we should just document these people and then let them support themselves. But she's just basically the glossier American version of Justin Trudeau. Right. And so when will that happen, though? Because until those people get a document and a job and a house, it's us that pays for it, the taxpayers. And then here's a question, follow-up question I have for that proposal is, when those people get documents and jobs, will our tax rates go back down then when that happens?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Does that ever happen?
Also, think about what that, like, I think that's going to have an opposite effect of what they think, because people aren't going to want to move there now. And the people that are there that can't afford it are going to leave. So it's like they're going to lose a lot more than they're going to gain, it would seem.
They'll lose their tax base.
Who's going to want to move to that area? Like,
just look at California
now.
Look at California. Right. I mean, you're literally, you got a $60 billion budget deficit now in California.
68 billion, yes.
68 billion. And you have the largest exodus in California's history. For the first time ever in the past year, you've seen in 2022 and into 2023, the largest population decline leaving the state because of the policies of that state, of that liberal government.
Right.
It's not a mystery. So you're going to start to see this all over Canada. You're already seeing a massive exodus of doctors in Canada. You're seeing a lot of the brain drain in Canada leaving the country. So you have extra wait times for people going to the hospital to get specialized care in Canada. This is a crisis, and it's a crisis of Trudeau's own making.
Right.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts of this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.